Good morning. My name is Dave Hinkle. I'm with Elm Electronics, and I'm here to talk about some of the rituals we have to go through. But the first thing I'd like to say is that VPX is not your grandfather's VME. It's different, and it's a lot more challenging and difficult, and so we need to understand that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some experience that we had in developing some technology using future technology that was being simultaneously developed when the customer wanted a solution. So we had to work in parallel. So lots of things are changing right now. So there are a lot of things being introduced to us in the VPX world and the integration world. I'm starting to see some things where the acronyms are becoming really a little bit different. So when I think of swap now, I don't think of the individual pieces as much as I think of the fact that we're talking about a system now, all right? So that's a word, an acronym that really means a system and has meaning for a lot of people. So we just need to make sure we understand those. No longer can we say, we're a packaging company, we're gonna make just one piece or that. You have to have an understanding of the total solution now. So we've become much more integrated into all the suppliers have to be able to communicate with one another at a system level of expertise. As much as some vendors would like to say, there's a lot of us in this room and we all need to work together, and generally we have a lot of different vendors in the same box. So the standards are great, but they still require that somebody understands all of the pieces, how they interrelate with one another, and how we can integrate them. So that's a very challenging thing for us. Earlier, somebody made the comment that we don't get specs anymore. Sometimes that's very true. We get an email that says, I have a concept. I want you to build one of these for me. All right? And I want it to be a standards base, but the standard doesn't exist. So we have to start figuring out how to model that, simulate it, figure out what we can do. A lot of end-to-end cases now. It's no longer, in the old days in VME, I had a chassis with you stuck a board in there. That's all you had to do. All right. Now you have to understand how you're talking, all these high-speed things from board to board. We need to understand what materials we're going to have to use in supplying this, how we're going to cool it, how we're going to get input in and out of the box. Connectors. We had a lot of things about people talking about connectors that are going on. High-speed connectors are becoming very, very challenging. Trying to figure out how to package them because they're not always, everyone is at the same level. So we may have one vendor at one level and another vendor down at this level, and so we have to make sure that you coordinate all those things together. Copper, of course, and fiber, there's the decisions we have to make in terms of how we're going to use it and how we're going to integrate it. Everybody wants to go faster, and we're looking very much at the capabilities of the fiber to help us get along there. When we start applying these new I/O connectors into our backplanes, that means you have to have a backplane, right? Someone's got to make this. As much as we have standard profiles of the things in the committee and everything else, we still have to go and develop it and make sure that it is manufacturable and will meet the necessary signal integrities that you need in your backplanes to get to the solution. So there's a lot of effort involved in vetting some of the processes for these new standards that are evolving. Right? So what we're finding is that it's very difficult to have just one solution that everybody can use. So we're getting back into that mixed solution, trying to get to higher I/O, RF, and other modules in here so we can get into higher speed capabilities. This is Ken Grobe provided. I don't know if some of you may or may not know Ken. Unfortunately, couldn't be here. He's really into the fiber optics as Michael Monroe is. We believe there's a lot of future in that, so we're trying to stay up on top of it to make sure that the architectures and how we integrate these things work together. We're very excited about the fact that we can now get them into the military packaging with the better temperature ranges, things that we can do with that now. Getting it in and out of the box. Again, that was a challenge at some time. In the rack mount days, we didn't have too much trouble. Everything was a front mount, back RTM, we pull it out, low speed, didn't have a problem. Now we're trying to get up to 100 gigabit Ethernet. And how do you get that in and out of the box, all right? And fiber is going to be our solutions for those. So when we're trying to do this, we had to figure out ways to mitigate the risk. And probably one of the best ways to do that is to build a good team. And what we acknowledge is that there's not one individual vendor that can do it all. There are a lot of us in this room that are supporting the standards, and that's what allows us to work together and solve the bigger problem that the customers have. So we've got to build a team. So you got to go out and find out who has what, be aware of who has what, understand who your partners are. There are a lot of objectives that we've been given by our customers that may seem unrealistic, all right, in terms of performance requirements and this, that, and the other. So we need to go through and vet those ideas. Because it's one thing to ask for it, but it's another thing, can you actually deliver it? So we have to work with our vendors, making sure that we can actually provide a solution that can work. And by going through design cycles, working with the customer, communicating, and we'll get it to a final resolution. New technologies are required in a lot of these solutions. Again, in this particular case, we were developing product that simultaneously with us trying to develop the standard and get the standard ratified and coexisting. So we're feeding what we're learning from our customers back into the standards organization to try to provide the openness that allows multiple vendors to work on a solution. A lot of the ecosystems are not there yet. I need a switch that does this. Nobody has one. So we got to go out and find a partner who is willing to step up and say, I'll take on that challenge. I'll go build this particular board because I work in this capability. I know how to do switches and I can do these things and I'll work to give you a solution for what you need. Again, end-to-end solutions are required, so we can't just any longer think of one piece of it. We have to look at the whole thing. Building partner relationships. We talked earlier about from the customer's perspective in terms of trusted vendors. I think one of the things that we're going to start seeing more and more of in our open world is the ability for your trusted vendors to work with other vendors. And participants in things like the VETO organization where the standards allow us to share. So that when we come up with these solutions, we actually have something that our customer can say, you are a trusted source, you are a value to me, you provide me with capabilities and solutions. There's a lot of activity that's going on. So you need to have some formal methodology of managing your activities, all right? So you really have to have a process in place. You have to be involved with the up-and-coming type of techniques such as Scrum to let you get into managing the process, all right? And so if you're not into that kind of thing, then you'll fall off and won't be able to actually meet the requirements of your customers. This is an eye chart. What it's really meant to show is that there are many, many different technologies and many vendors are at different levels of those technologies. So we need to make sure that when we are looking at these solutions, we have to understand where we are in all of these pieces so we can bring together the right architecture, topologies, to give this what we need to do in terms of our performances. Ethernet being a good example if I pull one of them out. All right, we all know this. This is where we're heading. All right, but how do we get there? All right, and who's there now? Who's not going to be there ever? Doesn't mean they're not good. It's just they may not be moving there, and we need to have that piece perhaps in the puzzle, and we just need to know how to integrate them together. You know, we are, the Xeon, very, very interesting as the technology. We talked about a lot of the trends, how to implement those into a solution in a multi-vendor environment, all right, becomes very important. And so trying to understand these things and how you would take advantage of them and when you implement them. We have switching now that can allow us in a little 3U box to do a lot of switching, all right. There used to be a bottleneck. Back when Jerry and I started many, many years ago, back in Motorola, it was CPU bound. We had a CPU, a bunch of I/O cards. And then your I/O got faster and faster. You got to get a better CPU. And now we're in a situation where we're moving the data around, and the packet data and the switching has become very, very much. I think probably 20 years ago, first person told me that Ethernet was dead. And, long live Ethernet, right? Of course, I'll probably be well retired in my grave before VME is dead, too. So, FPGAs, they're becoming really important part of the development of the application. So implementing an FPGA solution in a larger system is not just stick a board in a slot, all right? There's a lot of components associated with it. How you're going to get the I/O in and out of that FPGA, what other boards does it need to communicate with, middleware that could be available, and you needed to set up the transport of the data between the various boards in the system. Now, VPX is evolving, thank goodness. That's one of the things about the standards. If your standard grows with you, then it'll be something that will help you. And VPX is evolving. We went from what I call chaos with Vita first VPX, and then Open sort of straightened it out a little bit and gave us some interoperability. But we're still moving towards the need to work as a community, all right, to make this much more interoperable. We're having the new standards coming out, so we need to make sure that we support them fully in the organization. And we are building these backplanes now that have these. We have samples of backplanes, and we're going to be talking about them later on and some of the capabilities that we've incorporated into this. But these are here now, and they're real now, so we are ready. And things that keep me awake at night, everyone keeps talking about those 100 gig Ethernet, Gen 4 PCIe, makes me a little nervous. All right, people are still having trouble with Gen 3. The new multi-gig connectors, hopefully we're going to get into a point where, we're going to pick up some of the speed type performance. All right. So these are some of the things that we ran into while we were going through and how we had to overcome and work with other people. And I just thought we could share some of that.